And welcome back to Cigar Time, your friendly neighborhood TV show all about premium cigars. What?
Oh, I'm just looking. Do it every week.
Nah. Try to make me laugh every week when I'm doing it. I saw you out of the corner of my eye.
I know. I know you did.
So welcome back. What's going on? Anything?
Nothing exciting.
Okay.
Life is just rolling along.
It is. It is.
Eagles are 15-2 odds to win the Super Bowl.
Really?
15-2?
Yeah, I think Kansas City's like 6-1. I forget what the Phillies were like 22-1. The Braves are like
Chalk.
2-1.
Yeah, they're chalk.
Jeez.
I know.
Did you say chalk?
Chalk
What's that mean?
means they're the ones that are expected to win.
Where did the chalk come from?
Yeah, I never heard that.
Chalk.
Huh, never heard that
It's
before.
a horse racing term. It's going off chalk.
Cool. Didn't know that.
It's expected to win.
I like learning the origins of where stuff like that comes from.
That's not the origin, but I'm just saying that's what
No.
it means.
Etymology
Is that what it's
is
called?
what that's called as a science. I would never know that except my brother's a linguistic scholar. So he's always talking about the etymology of this word or that word.
I see. Okay. Well, what are we smoking today, Roscoe?
Leaf.
Leaf?
Can you be a little more
Oh, I
specific?
thought it was a Sumatra.
Leaf by Oscar.
Leaf by Oscar Corojo. Has a Corojo wrapper and I believe Dominican filler and binder.
Something like that.
Is that correct?
No, it's Honduran filler and binder.
You are correct.
I don't know.
That's right.
Oscar works pretty much only with
was
Honduran
close.
tobacco.
I mean, it was
By the way, you might think this is the ugliest cigar you've ever seen. The good
it is,
news
it's
is
ugly.
you don't smoke this, although many people have tried, but you don't smoke this, you take it off. They use an extra leaf instead of cellophane to protect the cigar and to preserve it. And, you know, to me it's a funny thing. When this cigar first came out, it's got to be close to 10 years ago. It's right
easy.
around 10
Yeah,
years
yeah.
ago. Everybody thought it was a gimmick looking at it from the outside.
It is a gimmick.
But, well, no, it serves a practical purpose. It maintains moisture better than cellophane does.
It can be both.
It could be a smart gimmick. How's that?
Yes.
But when you get past the gimmick, the cigar inside
It's beautiful.
is a beautiful cigar.
It really is.
Really, really well constructed. And the wrapper is gorgeous.
Yeah. And the band you can smoke through.
Yeah, I'm moving it up right now.
Yeah, I like to move it up because I like that smell. That's why I burned the outside band.
Yeah, it's made of, it's a tobacco byproduct or probably pulverized or, and just,
It's kind of like what they use to make short fillers.
Short
cigars.
fill cigars, yeah. Machine made.
So they
domestic.
grind up tobacco and they add boiling water to it and then they squeeze it out through rollers.
yeah, they make kind of like a slurry.
Yes.
I used to work in a paper recycling plant. That's how we recycled and made the paper. So somebody asked me last week, I sold one of these and they're like, anybody ever smoked this, you know, without taking the leaf off? And I'm like, well, somebody left the cigar for me. I mean, this was 10 years ago. Nobody had ever heard of the leaf or leaf and bean or any of that stuff. So they just put the cigar on my desk. I'm like, oh, all right. So I just cut it and lit it. And they came in like a day or two later. Like, oh, did you get that cigar I gave you? I'm like, yeah. Like, how'd you like it? And I'm like, it was decent. And I said, but it was really messy.
Wow.
And he's like, did you take the leaf off? I'm like,
No.
no. I guess I was
Wait a
supposed
second.
to.
You continued to smoke it?
I didn't know.
entire
I
way?
thought there was.
Well, at some point you got to figure out.
It's
That-
important
that it
to
comes
know
off.
that this outer leaf was not chosen for flavor
Yeah.
or aesthetic appeal. So smoking it is really not a good idea. It would more or less ruin the whole cigar.
Yes, and then I tried one without it, and I was like, oh, okay, it's pretty good.
Jim's been on the show a few times.
Yeah.
We had these, and we smoked the Island Jim. I like those. I like the San Andres.
I like the sunglasses.
Yeah, I still have those sunglasses, the yellow ones.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
somewhere.
bright yellow ones.
Because I just moved and I saw them. I'm like, holy crap! I can't believe I still have these.
All right, so Paul.
So what?
Hold on, sorry. That's got a weird. I got a very distinct flavor. I'm not sure what it is.
Corojo.
Almost like a plum. But we were talking in between shows, and our friends on Instagram saw it. But we were talking about plug cigars, and I wanted to continue that.
From it, well, there are a few things in the cigar smoking world that frustrate smokers more than a plugged cigar.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a cigar that you typically really like and you want to get going with it and you can't.
Right.
So what actually is a plugged cigar, and why? How does it get that way? And it's easy to say, oh, it's a handmade product. Somebody made a mistake along the way, but it's not quite that simple. What kind of mistake leads to a cigar that you can't draw through? And there are actually 3 different things that can happen in the creation of a cigar that would cause that. And the first one that we were talking about between shows is if you think about the leaves in the filler and the way they fold them over each other, if they have an extra fold, like one corner of the leaf gets folded in before the rest, when you roll it up, it's going to form a clump, a hard spot where the tobacco is really tight. One way you could think about this is if you ever rolled up, if you rolled up
Register
paper, cash register paper. Thank you. If you ever rolled that up at the end of a day, you know that if one little part of it gets folded in as you're rolling it, it forms a big lump in the roll, and you can't get rid of it unless you unroll it.
Right.
And the same thing happens with tobacco. So if there's just the littlest amount of turned over leaf when they pull back the machine to clump it, it gets a hard spot and you just can't get air through it unless you use something like a cigar poker and make a hole in it.
I wanted to talk about those too. They don't work.
They do work.
They might make it so you can smoke the cigar, but it changes the airflow. It's not the same cigar.
It's not the same.
And I don't.
It's doable, but it's not the same.
Yeah, it's.
The second big cause of clumping and tight cigars, or plugged cigars, not really tight, but plugged cigars, is if you've ever seen film or ever watched someone roll a cigar, when they're doing the bunching, typically they'll take the leaves, they'll fold them, they'll rip off the ends to get it to approximately the right length, but then they'll take the ripped off pieces and stick them back into the cigar in different spots depending on where the loose spots would normally be. But if they do too much of that, or if they put too much of it in the same spot, it'll have the same effect as that rolling thing we talked about. There'll just be too much tobacco in one part of the cigar. So if you weighed the cigar, it would seem like it would be fine. If you pinched the cigar, it would also seem fine, but there'll be a spot in there somewhere where there's just too much tobacco in one spot, and then the air can't flow through. The other big reason is just tightness, and that is really where the individual roller makes all the difference in the world. If you roll a cigar too tight, it's not going to draw well no matter what you do. People like to talk about how Cuban cigars typically, and that has to do with rolling style.
I would think so, yeah.
The rolling style in Cuba is to do very tight rolling, which means on a percentage basis, the odds of having one that's too tight to smoke are pretty good.
But wouldn't the draw tester catch that type of...
They don't use those in Cuba.
Well, other than that, I mean, we're not smoking Cubans, but...
Typically, a draw tester would catch that.
Just that particular reason,
but
not
most
the other
companies don't draw test everything. They draw test a random sampling of the cigars as they go.
I think more
and more are doing all of it.
Yeah.
But historically, many companies would only do a random, like 10% of their cigars would get draw tested. So it'd be very easy for a plug or two to get by.
Yeah.
And if it didn't show up in a pinch test, you know, before there were machines like a draw test machine, there were supervisors who would look over each person's rolling as they were doing it and also pinch the cigars themselves to feel if they were too loose or too tight. The draw tester makes all of that totally objective. The rest of it is subjective. It's what the supervisor senses or feels or thinks.
Now, what would the supervisor do if it finds a cigar that doesn't draw well? What do they do with that cigar? Do they repurpose that tobacco, or do they take the wrapper off and use the filler and binder again?
I can't speak to what anybody else did on this subject except what we did in our factory, which was if it was too tight or too loose in a draw test, they had to disassemble the cigar, save as much of the wrapper as they could for a smaller cigar,
right,
and just rebunch and rewrap the rest.
Okay. So they didn't just throw it out, or
No, nobody throws it out.
Davidoff does. But, okay.
Well,
Yeah.
so they say. It doesn't get to be a Davidoff, but it doesn't go away. It goes out as something else.
They say they throw them away.
Well, I can tell you, I was there and I saw a huge box of cigars that were snapped in half.
See?
They snap them in half.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, you can't sell them that way.
No.
Well, I guess you could.
Well, that'd be cool. Like you get like pretzels that are broken up. They sell
or
that.
burnt ends.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
How about the stem? Does that cause plugs at all?
It can. It typically doesn't because they want some stem in a cigar,
That's
but
exactly
not
where I was
a
hoping
really,
you were going to go.
not a really big one, and not too many of them. So an occasional stem is okay.
Oh, I think I think it was Michael Herklock. I was talking podcast or something. And he said you actually, if you don't have the stem, the cigar, the ash is just going to
Fall right off.
It gives it support. You have to have it in there.
But too much is a whole different thing because you
Correct.
can't draw through a stem.
Right.
And if too much of the barrel of the cigar is full of stem, the air has no place to go.
I think if it's really thick, like if it's the
If
the
it's a
base of the
tree-
leaf.
If it looks like a twig.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
some of them do. Like this
Well,
is,
here.
this is fine. Yeah, this is.
Oh, this one here. Look at that. How thick that is.
Well, look at it this way. Here's a stem. I just want all the leaf off so you see the stem. See how thick that is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you had
that's
a
the
long-
that's
if you-
probably the base of the leaf. The
Yes,
tip of
it is.
Much. Like,
This is the main vein through the leaf, and that's not bad at all. But if it went in like that, if it got doubled over,
Right.
then you have a problem.
Yeah. Major problem.
A cigar is from an engineering standpoint, a cigar is a very delicate thing.
Yeah.
And very slight variations in what you do in different parts of the process has a real effect on whether the cigar is going to draw or not. It's not a little random thing.
I've gotten a stem this big before in a cigar. That's really thick.
And I've seen people with needle nose pliers trying to pull
'em
stems
out,
out
yeah,
of their
yeah.
cigar, which is not a good idea, actually.
yes, but have your flag.
That's cunning on them. They brought a flag. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
It is, but if you watch it a couple of times, it just doesn't get. It's not as funny later.
I can watch it every day.
I watched it not too long ago. You know, actually, I watched the other night JFK.
Good movie.
Oh my god!
Great
I forgot how good. And
One
the
of
cast
Kevin Costner's better performances.
cast of characters in that movie was, oh my god, there was like
Oh, yeah.
12, 13, 14 A-listers.
Yeah.
And Joe Pesci and Tommy Lee Jones.
Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon, Walter Matthau, Jack Lemmon,
Yeah.
Donald Sutherland, Sissy Spacek, or however you say her name. Anyway,
That's how you
That's how you
say
say it.
but it was so. I wish I could. I wish, and I wish this with all movies. I wish how much. I wish I knew how much of it was completely accurate and how much was just dramatic effect.
Yeah. Yeah, all movies. that are
To
true
me,
stories.
unless it's a straight up documentary, I assume it's all for entertainment value,
All fake.
and I don't attach any significance to it.
Yeah, because you know,
Well,
thinking
some
about it
things-
again.
some things are true. Like he was shot.
Yeah, some things are true, but you don't have to figure out which if you're watching an entertainment movie instead of a documentary.
But it was a great movie.
It was.
really was.
Are we going to talk about this cigar, or are we?
Sure.
Could have blind.
Seems like we ought to. We're halfway
Yeah,
through the
give
show.
give your.
All right,
yeah.
Big Mouth, go ahead
Yeah.
then.
It is a surprisingly mild cigar, considering it's a Honduran Corojo, which people associate with pretty full flavor. I think as Corojos go, this is pretty mild. It's pleasant. I'm not getting a whole lot out of it at the moment.
Really? It's a very dark Corojo.
Yes, it is.
Darker
Just pulled out of it.
most.
Now, take that, which is fat to begin with, and imagine that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm getting a sweetness from this, and almost like a dark chocolate or roast espresso or something going on. But there's a definite sweetness to it.
A little bit, yeah. I'm getting a
It's subtle.
toastiness, toasty taste from it. I'm not getting any twigs.
Well, that's good. Yeah, the draw is fine.
Yeah.
It's a nice,
Mine's firm.
firm cigar,
Mine's firm. Not
but
real
it
loose.
but it draws.
And I would say this is, again, you guys, I would say this is medium versus mild.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was
two and a
just saying
half.
milder than
Yeah.
I expected.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it. I give it a 2.5.
I'm getting a little bit of, actually getting a little bit of spice in my cheeks on the inside, which is kind of odd.
Just a pinch between your cheek and gum.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's a different product altogether.
Well, Garrison.
You know, I don't think you're allowed to use chewing tobacco on a plane either.
Really?
How would anybody know?
I know, but when they talk about blah, 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 no vape and no smokeless tobacco, I'm like, okay, well, isn't that like Big Red?
Yep,
Isn't that smokeless tobacco? I'm like,
Yeah,
really? Come on,
absolutely.
man.
Yeah, what are they going to do?
Stop.
If they catch you spitting in a cup, you're in trouble.
Right.
I know a lot of
And
people
you're in
who
trouble if
swallow.
you're swallowing it.
A lot of, dude, I know a lot of people who swallow it.
Only Dykstra had to have.
A lot of baseball players, man. A lot of people I play baseball with, they would spit it out and then they would drink it. That was disgusting.
Why? What?
Yeah.
Out of the cup?
I know one guy who did. I don't know a lot of people, but
Did he do it regularly or
Yeah.
as a joke?
Nope.
All right, might have to excuse myself because that is just.
My
Absolutely
assessment of human character has just gone down a whole
Don't-
lot.
that's absolutely disgusting.
Yes, it is.
Oh my
But
God,
pretty
I'm
much
really
everything
gagging.
about chewing tobacco is pretty disgusting. I think.
Yeah.
Well, this you guys know the Slayer.
Yeah.
Well, he always used a spit cup with a cigar. He would leave. He left it in the store. I put on a hazmat suit, man. I was, oh God, I'm getting ready to yak just thinking about it. We bought him a special sip cup like a spit cup. It was like a man's sippy cup, and it was so if you knocked it over, it wouldn't spill.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't do that anymore. It's gross. Ugh.
It had to be back in the day the worst job to have in a bar is emptying the spittoon every
Yeah.
night.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine?
No. Nope.
Somebody had to do it.
Sorry.
Remember when we were at the airport and we put all those cigars, smoked cigars in an ashtray and then put water in it and just put it on top of
We
put it on top of a vending machine so they
nobody
wouldn't
would
know it was
find
there. It would just
well,
stink.
there's a story behind it though.
Go ahead.
That's because we go into the bar. This is in Las Vegas. We're leaving the trade
Actually, I
show.
think it was Detroit. It was a layover, I think it was. I think it was a layover.
Remember that, but
Okay.
okay, maybe it was Detroit. And we go in and we asked the person there. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
okay,
we
if
smoked cigars.
Smoke cigars, and they're like, yeah, go ahead. So like 15 minutes later, somebody else said, you can't smoke this in here. I'm like, we asked. They said it was fine. Well, it's not. You have to put them out. We're like, wait. So we go back and forth, and we're like, all right. We put them all in an ashtray, like Rob said.
And left them to stink.
Left them and put it up. I mean, we put it up really, really high, so it's not someplace that you like would normally clean, like the top of a
Top of a vending
Vending
machine.
vending
machine.
machine. Yeah,
And we put water in it so it would sit and
Make it
marinate.
extra nasty.
40 years ago, I
That'll
went-
learn them.
I went from smoking 3.5 packs a day of cigarettes to 0. And I tried everything in the world to quit. And one of the things that I did was a program called Smoke Enders. And part of what you do on Smoke Enders is every time you smoke a cigarette, when you're done with it, you put the butt in a Ziploc bag, and you have to carry that bag around with you everywhere you go. And at 3.5 packs a day, that bag got very full every day.
Gee, by stocking Ziploc.
I'd be sitting in meetings, and I'd have to, because back then you could smoke in a meeting.
In a meeting, yeah.
I'd have to open that bag, and everybody in the room would immediately go, oh, it was horrible. But it didn't help me quit. In the end, that didn't work for me at all.
Cigars did.
No, I was already smoking cigars.
Oh, really?
I was smoking cigars and 3.5
my
packs a
God.
day of cigarettes.
I know the same thing is you put it in a used mayonnaise jar because the mayonnaise in there, and you put a little water in it.
And it gets utterly
yeah,
disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that didn't work for me. I tried hypnosis, and they told me it was a perfect success, and I walked out of that session and had a cigarette.
You know what? And this is really over the top. I won't even touch a cigarette butt. I like even a cigar.
That repulsive.
It's like if somebody's other cigar, I'll pick up and throw out. But
I won't.
cigarette butt,
I won't do
I won't
that.
touch it.
I don't touch anybody's cigar, man.
No.
Although I have put someone else's cigar in my mouth. That's that's disgusting.
Oh,
That's part of the benefit
Oh.
that I get out of not cutting my cigars.
Yeah. You
I
know
can
which one's
look at a
yours.
cigar and I know which one is mine.
so I'm in the Casa de Monte Cristo out in Caesar's Palace, and I'm sitting there. I get a cigar. I cut it, put it down or something, and I haven't lit it yet, and I put the foot of the cigar in my mouth, and I start to light it, and I realize right away, and some guy's looking at me like this. I'm
He's
like,
waiting for you to do it.
he's kind of staring at me. I go, that's my first cigar. He's like, really? I'm like, no. I'm just an idiot.
I did that the other day. I like less than a week ago. I cut the cigar. I put it down. I helped the customer, and I went back to the cigar and I lit the wrong end. I'm like, but I just started to toast it, so I realized it had a V notch in it, and I'm like, no, that's not right.
Before I got my eyes done, I went and I put the cigar in the ashtray and picked it back up and I put the lid in my mouth.
Yeah, Scott's done that.
I've
I
done
think
that
we've
too.
all done that, but Scott really screwed us up.
That's enough to make me quit
I'll
smoking
never
for at
forget
least
that.
15 or 20 seconds.
He had to come in and shoot the show that day.
No, I didn't. No,
Yes, you did. You had an ice cube and you were putting it on your lip.
That
Yes,
is
you
false.
were.
That is false.
Not false.
Sounds-
It is because
It sounds totally plausible to
you
me.
knew about it because I may have done it more than once, but the original time was when the lounge was still like the old cage. Remember when the lounge was like the size of this table?
Yeah.
That's when it happened. This was a long time ago, and the story was I'm in my driveway. I come out in the car and I see my wife's car behind me, and I backed right the hell into it anyway. And I was like, oh, I put it right in my mouth real fast and burnt. It was wasn't my tongue, it was my lip.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But you had an ice cube.
I did.
I never burnt
Steve,
myself that
what's his
way,
name
but the
was there?
taste is sure awful.
Yeah.
What's Steve's name? Short Steve. Little
Morgan?
Steve Morgan was there. I mean, when I came to the lounge.
I never did it that big. You can feel the heat coming off of the cigar and realize
It has to be like when you're not thinking at all or you're completely distracted.
yes, like hitting your
so you
wife's
don't
car.
so you don't even feel the heat. You
Backed
just
right the hell into it. Not anymore. We got my son's home from school, so we've got 3 cars so I always park. Usually first one in. And I'll park far enough back that my wife her car's like a foot from the road we live on. So then when it's time for me to leave, I can just pull up a little bit and just back right out, so I don't have to move 2 cars.
Why do manufacturers do what I just did?
it's a way of sensing what the they only do it with wrapper.
Right.
And it's a way of sensing what it's going to smell and taste like and how it burns.
Uh-huh.
So
burn pretty well.
you'll see in the tobacco barns often manufacturers that are going through the pilons and deciding what they want and what they don't. They'll do that with the leaf.
Okay.
And people love to use footage of that in cigar ads.
Yes, they do.
You know, guys with a slightly burning leaf going.
Yeah.
Their nose
All right,
is
let's
on fire.
put our final ratings and review on the cigar.
You want me to go first?
Sure.
I would have to start by saying within the leaf line, I prefer the Maduro to this.
As do I.
I like the Sumatra better than this one.
The Corojo flavor, although it seemed muted at first, really starts to come through at about the halfway point. Like big time, I really taste the Corojo wrapper now. I give it an 8-9.
Okay.
I smoked mine all the way down to the ring.
Yeah, that's right. mine's been gone.
I started off. I just remember I got like a fruity, like almost like a plum kind of flavor. I'm getting a sweetness. The spice to me is actually the pepper. More of a pepper is actually picked up. I think it's a smooth cigar, very flavorful. I will give this a 9.
Okay. I agree. The peppers, and it's like straight down the center of my tongue.
Yeah.
I get a toastiness through the retro hail. It's very tasteful. It's very definitely a Corojo, and I like the Maduro better. The Maduro I would give a higher rating to. I give this a 9. Also,
What do you guys think about the Connecticut and the Sumatra?
the Connecticut is good. The
Sumatra's very good.
The Sumatra's
Yes,
very good.
That's sweet, but the Connecticut is, man, when you talk about cream.
Yes. Well, we did this review about a year and a half ago when we did. We had the multiple retailers on the stage,
Right.
the dais or whatever, and we were all smoking the cigar. And
different ones, weren't we?
No, we were all smoking the same one. We were all smoking the Connecticut,
Oh, okay.
and we all said we liked all the other cigars except for the Connecticut. Because I said I liked the Maduro, you said you liked the Sumatra, and I forget what Trey and
I like
Dave
all
and
of them.
Johnny said. But no, they are good. They're all very good. But we all preferred the one that we weren't smoking.
There you go.
So
But when you pick one up, make sure to do what I did. You just gently like roll the cigar right on the cigar band a little bit. It'll loosen it up. And I like.
do we have any events?
I like
coming
to
up?
slide it. No, we don't actually.
Oh, okay.
Slide it up and then. There's Perdomo in Doylestown. I forgot this Friday.
Okay.
But it really does change the flavor.
Yeah.
The band.
The band does, yeah. I like that
So
smell.
did you give it
man.
a number?
9, he said.
Okay.
All right, thanks for watching. Don't forget our pack show, which is coming up in about 20 seconds.
You mean the outlet show?
The outlet show, pack show. Still call it the Saturday show because it used to be on Saturday.
Right.
So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Smoke often and smoke happy.
Ciao for now, everybody.
Life's too short to smoke cheap cigars.